Welcome back to the Opposition podcast with your hosts, the smart, good-looking
Rukshan Fernando.
Fernando, and what am I?
I'll give you that today as well. Actually, I'm feeling nice.
I love how you went. Look, I want to zoom in a little bit so I can be as big and bold as
But
you. There we go. That's better.
that's better.
Episode 27, I think. We had this argument on the way in, didn't we?
Yeah, look, I never remember what episode we're up to, but every time before we start the show, you always like, it's episode 27 today, right? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it's not.
I remember when you actually used to, put something into this show, contribute, run the everything, the back end,
Yeah.
technology,
Now,
nothing. And I thought,
now I'm just cruising in, now I'm just cruising in.
I thought it was sus though, to be honest, because you built the studio for me, and I thought, man, I'm getting this free labor. This guy's doing everything, and I didn't realize what you were really doing.
Yeah.
Why weren't you honest with me at the time?
I was just setting you up, man. Trained you in everything, showed you how everything works, gave you the best processes and the best technology and equipment that you could purchase to actually get it all running. But like you said, it's all directed towards you actually running the show. So that's
Like,
perfect. Worked out for me.
it's give a man food or teach a man how to farm his own food. And you went and you taught me how to farm.
I taught a man how to live stream. So there you go.
There
Now
you
I'm
go.
reaping the benefit.
Okay, some house rules. So, this is always a work in progress. Of course, we're going to start on all the mainstream platforms. If you want to comment and potentially get your comment on screen, you have to do that at the moment on any of the YouTube channels or X feed, so Rukshan or my feed or our YouTubes or Facebooks at the moment. We do have quite a spicy guest tonight, another person of color, so we'll just see how it's going, but at some point we're going to have to switch over to the free speech platforms only, and that'll be X and Rumble. Is that right? And
X
of
and
course,
Rumble and the website
the
itself.
opposition.show. To get on there, you have to sign in, and then at the end, the last 20 minutes, we've started this new thing on all the shows here that once you do become a Rebel News Plus member, you can actually join us on the show for a little conversation with the intimate fans, a group, I call it family. You can have a chat with Rukshan, you can confront me, or the other way around. You can help me take down Rukshan. That's at the end of the show. Again, you have to go to theopposition.show and click on today's episode. And if you're already a member, great. There's a little button there below the live stream in which you click, and you will actually sign in and go into a waiting room and be able to join us on screen at the end. Is there anything you want to add, Rukshan? I know you just came from another show which was poorly produced. How did
It was
that
very
go?
well produced, actually. That's going good. I've started my own Rukshan on X show. Not exactly sure how many days a week that I'll be doing it. It is in direct competition to the Yemeni report that airs on Tuesday night. So not a high bar to actually try to cross. So, I'm still waiting for that bar to be raised a little bit, and then I might raise my game. So far, just taking it chill and cruising into this, interesting world of live streaming. I think it's a new thing for Australia in terms of, having a more constant alternative media live stream. Arby, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I'm actually enjoying the live streams, and I've got some fancy buttons that I've been playing with.
Yeah.
And so like anytime you say something that triggers me,
Yeah. You need better sound effects.
you don't like that?
That's
I'm
not,
working. I've got to get some
yeah.
Trump ones. We were talking about that. Anyways, we've got our guest today who's waiting in the room, patiently having to listen to you talk about your ridiculous show. We've got the wrong screen up already. Okay, I've got a few. It's like we're waiting for somebody else to join me here. I don't know which one I put here.
Are we having a fourth guest as well?
No, that's the
Oh,
screen.
not there yet, mate. This is what happens when you take
This is when you put me in charge. There we go.
yeah, there we go.
Andrew, thanks for joining us. And look, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself.
Thank you guys for the honor. We love you guys over here. I'm a pastor at church in Sydney Southwest, so Worktown over here. But yeah, so I've been pastoring a church for the last 7 years. We planted a church, literally. We started a Bible study, and before you know it, people kept on coming and coming and coming. But particularly during the totalitarian COVID lockdowns era, as we opened our church, people were flooding because we kind of chose to pursue and choose a stance of truth, which is very inconvenient, very dangerous, very chaotic. But something we got to figure out as a church in the last few years is that the more you speak truth, there is a new era and a new reality and a new movement where people really, really are very desperate for the truth. So I lead a church in Sydney Southwest. It's called Echo Church, and it's awesome. It's young. We get a lot of Gen Zers, lots of millennials. So many young people are turning to religion, turning to Christianity, turning to the Bible, unlike what the left has said or concluded that Christianity or religion is dead in Australia. Here in Sydney Southwest, we're actually seeing the exact opposite, which is amazing. And hey, we have been following you guys, Rukshan, how to pronounce your name again? Sorry.
Rukshan.
Rukshan, sorry. Hey, I'm a person of color. We can make the jokes together.
Yeah,
and
that's
Avi,
fine.
and honestly, thank you guys so much. You guys have been
Yeah, that's the button.
leading- I'm very bad with names. I wasn't born over here. I just learned English a few years ago. But going back, yeah, it has been awesome watching you guys fighting the good fight from the media and really getting us the truth of the matter. We live in a moment in time that we live in a moment where reality and what's actually happening and the mainstream media, who are kind of the false prophets of our time, they are propagating a narrative that's not real, that's not true. It's not what's happening on the ground. It's not what people are feeling, thinking, or what they're actually experiencing. But it is awesome finding two voices of truth in this moment of time who are choosing to stand in the gap and choosing to just give us another opinion, really. And not just that, choosing to actually represent the people. Like, how awesome that Donald Trump won a few weeks ago, like MAGA 2024. Oh my goodness.
We definitely got to get to
it's
that.
awesome that what we saw in America is that the people are now the media.
Yeah.
Like, this whole election, the last few months, was about, do people believe the mainstream media or the independent ground media that is actually bringing to the people what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what they're really happening? And thank the Lord, Americans are very smart. They're very, very switched on. They happen to actually not believe the media. So I don't know what's the future for the Democrat Party. Like, how do you lead a country when nobody actually believes the media? And I love what you guys are doing here, because we are seeing a new movement of people that are starting to be open-minded, big-minded, going on to debate. And yeah, it's amazing. So I love what you guys are doing. And who knows, same as the independent media was able to flip America from hating Trump to loving Trump, I think you guys and the church and the media will be able, independent media, we should be able to really open people's mind to know and understand that there is a better option, there's a bigger option, there's another option, and we can hopefully change Australia, because I think what we saw in COVID is that Australia was like a cult. I was like, both parties are propagating the same narrative, the same facts, the same solutions, the same policy. So you kind of feel like Australia is not just an island geographically, it's also an island ideologically. So we're living in this big, massive cult where you go right, you go left, you're echoing in an echo chamber the exact same opinion. And I loved what you, Avi, and Rukshan are doing, simply bringing a different option, a different opinion, and letting people, because we believe people are not stupid, they're smart, they're able to assess the data, look at the evidence, look at different perspectives, and actually arrive at their own conclusion. And one thing we do know If people in Australia knew what the leftist establishment has in store for them, they wouldn't be voting for them. And you guys are bringing that reality that people do not know about. So thanks a lot for that.
Well, that was quite the intro, and you kind of gave us a bit of insight, Pastor Andrew, into a lot of your views as well. And I was just seeing in the comments, people were asking, in terms of your the type of church you're from, or the denomination.
Look, I grew up,
church.
so I
People
was
wanted to
born in
know.
the Middle East. I was born in Egypt, so I'm the biggest mixed bag. So
Okay.
I was born Coptic. So Coptics are the original inhabitants of Egypt. That when Mark, the apostle, came to Egypt, most pagans became Christians. So we are the ancient Egyptians. So that's kind of who we are, ethnic. So I kind of did a DNA test a few months ago, and I'm like 98% Coptic. But what happened to Egypt is that as Islam took over from, sorry, my Muslim friends, I'm kind of spilling the beans on a bit of Islamic history. I love Muslims, but the reality of Islam, it's kind of shocking. As Islam rose from Saudi Arabia and the bottom of Arabia, it took over all the Middle East. So you know it, in the 600s, it took over Jerusalem and Israel and Judea. It was kind of run under the Orthodox and Jews at the same time. So boom, it took over Iraq, Assyria, the kingdom of Assyria. You got the kingdom of Persia and Iran. But then Islam took over Egypt in around 640 AD. And then Egypt went from 90% Christian. Now Egypt is 10% Christian and 90% Muslim. So kind of that's my background. So I kind of grew up as Orthodox, but I would classify myself now as Protestant. But honestly, I think the lines at the moment when it comes to churchianity, Christians, it's not dominational, but truthful. I think the moment, particularly Christians, and I would even argue Judaism and the Jews, we have a bigger enemy to fry at the moment. We have two big enemies, which is communism, which is knocking on the door of Australia, or as we call it, democratic socialism, which is another way of saying communism. And we also have potentially radical Islam and the Islamization of the West. So I think for the sake of the argument at this point of time, we need to abandon dominational faculty, at least politically, because we are on the verge of losing freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of worship. So I'm Protestant, I would say. But I do believe at this point of time, the lines are a lot bigger than Protestantism, Catholic.
I noticed through that, I noticed through your monologue there, God struck Rukshan. Did you see that? Could you see that?
What happened, Rukshan? Sorry, man. Did I trigger you? I'm sorry about
Can you see the screen there, Andrew? Are you getting this?
My light
Yeah,
actually
it went
almost fell
down.
on
The
my.
light went down. I'm not sure
My
what
light
you're
actually
doing.
fell on my head, almost fell on my head. I had to catch it, so I caught it just in time. So there you go. Perhaps some divine intervention didn't hit me on the head.
There's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with your first comments, Andrew, or Pastor.
Yeah.
We go here. You did say something, I know, because it was a great segue, but then you kept talking, and so then I lost the segue. But we'll go back to this shock poll. Literally in the last 6:47, so literally half an hour ago, this is being published. Shock poll reveals Peter Dutton on track for major win at next federal election. Now,
Yep.
yeah, what's your take on it? Do you believe the polls?
Look, yeah, I do. There is a right-wing revolution happening. People are not feeling good. What happened in Australia in the last 4 years at the far left has taken us on an aggressive journey of removing Christianity, religion out of the West. People are not happy. You know, one of the biggest shocking realities of Australia is that Australia is constitutionally a Christian nation. People say it's not, but if you open the Constitution, it says humbly relying on the blessing of Almighty God. And that is the reason Australia is a very inclusive and religiously tolerant nation. We're able to have Jews, Christians, Protestant, Muslims, atheists, every single type of gender, they, them, men, frog woman, whatever you are. you'll be able to exist. And you can do whatever the heck you want. Just don't put it on the children. But I see that happening. You got number one, the West, and particularly Australia, changed a lot in the last 4 years. You're looking and you're like, this is not the Australia that we know. It's not Western. It's not free. It's not tolerant, unlike what the left say. And it's not very inclusive. And on top of that, you got the cost of living crisis. See, because we live in a very prosperous nation, I think Australians took the wrong turn by voting Take It Easy Albanese, Comrade Albanese, and now they saw the reality that socialism doesn't actually work. It doesn't work. You can't spend your way into prosperity. You actually have to work your way in prosperity. And Proverbs say, work hard and you become great and successful. So I think Australians are realizing now that the utopian dreams of the left, green energy, you will get everything for free, and free school and free Medicare, people have to wake the hell up. And if religion and what happened to COVID didn't wake them up, well, guess what? Reality is hitting down, man. Like, the average price of a house in Australia is $1.2 million. And the average wage is like 80. So the average house is 16 times more than the average wage. Socialism sucks, and socialism doesn't work. And if you don't learn by wisdom, which I think Australians do not learn by wisdom, I love Australia, but I do think Australians are very slow. And because they are not intellectual, they tend to not listen to warnings and wisdom when it comes knocking. They only react when it's too late. But hey, thank the Lord, I feel like the next election, after trialing socialism for 4 years under Albanese and trying the basic income with the COVID lockdowns and everybody getting $750 a week, it's obvious that you cannot spend money into prosperity, but you need to have free, hard-working economy. And the reality doesn't lie, man. Socialism sucks. I think socialism doesn't work. And right?
What do you think? Like, obviously, you know, when you watch U.S. elections, you see a lot of the leaders, especially from the Republican side, really bring, especially Trump, they bring like God into the discussion. They bring the church into the discussion, and they're very open about these
It is the discussion, dude. It is the discussion.
But in Australia, like, you know, you're not going to see people. You're not going to see Peter Dutton do this. Very rarely, like,
so
you see
there is
any
two things I see. There is two things. There is two things. Number one, the Australian church is weak, woke, and womanized. The feminization of the church is real. So pastors at the moment don't act like men, they act like women. I always say it's beautiful when women act like women, but when men act like women, it's very ugly. When men act like women, instead of valuing strength and courage, they value empathy and kindness. So because the church is silent, weak, womanized, and woke, and because of the feminist movement in the 1960s, we have a condition in Australia where most men, and therefore most churches, are feminist and therefore feminized, and they don't know it. And because the church is weak and silent, the political class simply is not playing the card, because there is really no card to play. Like in America, man, I was with Charlie Kirk, and they ended up from having 300 churches for Trump in 2020. Now they're up to at least 4,000 churches for Trump. Yeah. So what swinged the election was the right-wing religious wave. Conservatives have to understand the foundation of conservatism is religion. If you remove religion, there is no conservative. So the problem we have at the moment in Christless conservatism or irreligious conservatives is that what they fail to realize is that their heartbeat. So Trump nailed it. He started with the Christians, the right wing. He released the Bible. And then he expanded his territory from Christians to conservatives. And then he went from conservatives to the libertarians. So he went to Elon Musk. So he went from Christianity then he went to the conservatives, the non-Christian conservatives, then he went to the libertarians with Elon Musk, then he went to the swing vote with RFK. So the conservative movement in Australia needs to go back to the religious wave, because the reality is it's religious people that are conservative. And the moment you remove religion, you have new values. So Trump led a very successful campaign. And I'm telling you, man, I was chilling in America for the last 2 years, and I watched the crowd explode bit by bit. So the Liberal Party needs to go back to the base, which is Christendom and the Jews. And guess what? Avi was saying, Abba's already turning on the Jewish vote. They already are. So it's already happening. And the reason it's turning is very simple. All my Jewish friends, 9 out of 10 Jews in America vote Democrat, in case you didn't know.
Not this last one. This last one they didn't.
Not this last one, but yeah. The last
and
one
also depends
probably 5-5.
When you say Jews, it really depends what you're talking about. Like if you're talking about people that I guess racially identify as Jews
or religiously,
religious Jews, the numbers were like 80-90% Trump. The other ones, Trump was up because obviously Jews since October 7 realized that the woke left is not going to have their back in a time of need. But I think let's check out the next stories that are making look at me, I'm just off my head here tonight.
Oh, that's a good one, man. Australia Day. Happy Australia Day, guys.
Yes,
happy Australia Day.
So it's been a wild
I love
week.
Australia.
A wild week for Australia Day, and we haven't even got to Christmas or New Year's yet. Usually this Australia Day debate happens on January 1st. It starts as everyone's recovering. But yeah, we know that so obviously there's this Labor MP who today or last night on Sky News said that Australia Day, he called it controversial and that it's undergoing a transition. What do you make of that?
Number one, I love Australia. How weird is that 3 brown boys love Australia? This is the funny thing. They keep on saying Australia Day is racist. Yet anybody that immigrated or had their parents come here, you're like, if Australia is racist, then why did I come here? That doesn't even make sense, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, this is why the left hates people like us. Because we simply contradict the fake narrative that Australia Day is white supremacist. I love Australia Day. I will always celebrate Australia Day. And guess what? We are proud. And what the left do, this is very, very important for all my friends, is that the leftist pathway to make something illegal, they always make it controversial. Controversial, and before you know it, what's controversial becomes illegal. This is the reason the media did an article about me a few weeks ago and said, controversial pastor. I'm like, guess what? I don't give a crap. I'm controversial. The measure for me is not am I controversial, but am I truthful? The truth is Australia has welcomed people from all religions and all races. The truth is, I don't agree with homosexuality, but you can be gay, they, them, frogman, frogwoman, and be on Australia. The truth is, Australia even welcomes people that hate Australia. So we need to stop this bullcrap. And sorry day, sorry day, sorry day, sorry day, every single year, sorry day. I'm like, what the hell is sorry day? Number one, I didn't do anything, so I'm not saying sorry for anything. And but guess what? 99% of the people here didn't do anything. You're not even alive. So sorry day is white liberal, and by liberal I mean leftist, white liberal, rich soy boy men and white liberal Karens. They're guilt tripping you, and you need to stop letting them guilt trip you. It's very simple. The sins of your fathers doesn't come to you, number one. Number two, we don't even know what your fathers did. Like, one of the weird things about Aboriginal culture is that I don't even know what happened because they don't have any mechanism of recording history. And if you are, or English colonization, I'm like, dude, have you heard about the Muslim colonization? Like, I had to escape the nation.
There's a controversial pastor.
They were like, controversial pastor. I'm like, whatever, mate. Like,
I'm scrolling this article. I don't know if you see the screen. they've tying you to the
So
Hillsong.
who's this? Which
So
outlet
Daily
is this?
Telegraph, I just looked it up while he was talking. New charismatic churches filling the Hillsong void post Brian Houston. So they're calling you a new charismatic church, I imagine.
Yeah, because they don't like charismatic leaders. Always remember, guys.
But I know
Australia
you have
has
a
a
twin brother, don't you?
Yeah, his name is Martin. He looks exactly like me.
So like when you, let's say, be honest now, like no, there's like all right guys, everyone watching, so we got 2,994, so the 3,000 of you guys, this is what he's about to tell us. We keep between us. Saturday night you get absolutely hammered. You wake up Sunday morning, hangover. You cannot be bothered going to church. You know, it happens. It happens. Do you send your brother?
Dude, this is the beauty, is that when they come to arrest me one day for daring to defy, I'm like, I got a brother. I got enough time to escape the country. Yeah, so it's amazing. Some people, man, think I have 2 wives. So I always go to the shops and you have that girl come to my wife,
yes.
hey babe, I saw your boyfriend or your husband with another woman this morning. And she's like, no, there's 2 of us. So the good news is, if something happens to me, guess what? The vision continues. So there's 2 of us, guys, me and Martin. And he's 6 years younger than me, actually. So
Oh,
I'm
is
a
he?
lot
He's
older
that
than
much younger than you?
No, it looks
Yeah.
just like you, apparently. Oh, well, there you go.
Wow. Let's move on with some of the stories that I've prepped here on the screen. Back on Australia Day, the group that essentially, the company that owns the pub group that runs
Yeah.
the 200 pubs that cancelled, so Australia Venue Co. They're
Avi,
only.
I got to cut in there. I actually got a message from someone that works there.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I got a message from someone that works at that place. Can I read the message out on air?
Yeah. What place is this?
They're one of the managers at Australia Venue Co. Apparently.
At one of the pubs.
I'm not sure. Let me just read the message.
Read the message.
Give me a moment.
Did this happen now as we were live on air?
Yeah, just this morning. I just saw it now. So I'll just read this first, actually. Just let's have a look. They're sending it to me anonymously. This is what they said. I work for AVC, and I thought it would be interesting to you that since the Chinese takeover of the company, head office has been trying to squeeze every venue for more profit at the expense of the employee, especially management. It is extremely common at every venue to have managers working overtime and not getting paid for it every week. They say it in the contract to do reasonable overtime, but basically what they do is factor this in for our labor percentage spend, which must be below a certain point. It wasn't this bad when the Australian group owned it. It got much worse now. I know people who will regularly do 50-hour weeks, which if they dedicated to their job and hardworking is fine, but the crux of the matter is they aren't getting paid by the big company. I don't want any of this getting back to me, but since I'm a new manager, but I thought this discussion around my company, this could get out there and put some pressure on them to stop this shit. So, that goes back to them being owned by this Chinese.
Well, it's Hong Kong based, but
Hong Kong, yeah.
Drew Pavlo's posted. So the investment firm, which is chaired by Weijian Shan, I feel like I got to put an accent on when I do that, who is a vocal supporter of the CCP, and I called it straight away because as soon as you saw they were Hong Kong based. There's no successful firms today that are pro-democracy and pro-Hong Kong. They're all in jail. The only people that are left, and they're buying in, they're buying in on Australian companies trying to cancel Australia Day. Wow. What was your reaction, Andrew, when you saw that? And that's pretty.
This is ridiculous. My question is to people: when are we gonna wake the hell up? Like, it's really honestly, like, I'm looking now and I'm like, if this happens in America, this company will not have one sale the day after. I really believe Australians need to wake the hell up.
There was a bit, to be fair though, there was a bit of a backlash. I think
we need more, man.
They must have felt it because they backtracked to a degree. They haven't said they're celebrating Australia Day. I do think Rukshan, I think that message is important, and I think Rebel News will run that as a story tomorrow, obviously without identifying the person. But I think it's an important fact because
Yeah.
We need to shine light on these international
Yeah.
investment firms or companies that are buying us out, and then they're essentially attacking us from within. It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, how many people would have thought that so many of our local pubs and venues and stuff were owned by
Exactly.
technically the CCP,
Yep.
and this is kind of that we can't show evidence of them doing this, but this is kind of like their trademark in terms of destabilizing countries through this kind of subterfuge that they do
Yeah.
by
We
trying to mess with the identity of the nation. So I think there
we
is something to
we
this.
need an Australia first policy, man. We have to stop it. We have to stop this stuff. There's something weird, like it is a very common sense reality. If any person or MP or a political party is unapologetically supporting China, we need something to change. Like the reality is, we are a Western nation. We believe in freedom. We believe in democracy. We believe in individual liberty. And the reality is, China does not believe in that. China does not believe in that. China is a communist nation. So the question now becomes, how come we keep on playing politics with a nation that the reality is it's only a matter of time before tension and war happens? And how come we're letting people that don't share the values of our nation, the Judeo-Christian values of faith, family, freedom, how come we're letting these people take over this nation? We need some strict laws that will make Australia first and Australians first, and from the government and from the people. And we need some law that will have a reality. How come people, foreigners from nations who aggressively are anti the foundational elements of our nation, how come they're able to run companies with 100% ownership?
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense.
It's insane
It
to
doesn't.
me. And I see Daniel James is in the chat. I'll keep putting his comments on screen. Daniel, mark down for tomorrow. Rebel needs to run that story because I think it's important. Hopefully, it encourages more people that are working under that company, and hopefully more people, if they are doing the wrong thing.
I think they've kind of exposed themselves, right? They've exposed their business.
Yeah.
There's more people looking into it, and we might see more people coming out against this company. And
Yeah.
in terms
The
of just,
enemy
like, the
is
conditions
within.
there,
The
right?
enemy
Yeah.
is within at the moment. And my encouragement to Labour voters is for them to wake up, man. The left-wing voters. Socialism is one step closer to communism. Do not be surprised when this is happening when the Labour is in charge. It's not surprising. It's not weak. You have, just Google Labour Party. The Labour Party in Australia is a socialist democratic party, or social democrat. They're socialist. As one of the greatest prime ministers in Australia, Robert Menzies, said, socialism is one step closer to communism. So if Australia and Australians keep on having a left-leaning instinct, it's only a matter of time before Australia will be erased. The hate towards this nation is coming from the left.
Yeah.
It's not a conspiracy. And you should not be voting for people that hate your country. And guess what? I wasn't even born here, and I love this country.
I was going to ask you, when did you come here?
So I came here in 2007. I was 16. So came here
Oh, you're
as a refugee.
Wow.
Yeah, Egyptian. So, and that's the reason I am surprised when I see people who are born here hate this country. They have freedom. Till this moment of time, you are still not jailed for speaking. You had, until the last 3 years, a reasonable economy. You can start a church, you can start a mosque, you can start a temple, you can start a religion, you can start a business, you can do whatever the heck that you want. You can vote. You are living in a very, very awesome free nation. And by the way, like this is, Avi, this is the funny thing. People don't know, Hitler was a nationalist socialist. One of the funny things I get from the left, they always say right-wing neo-Nazi. I'm like, Hitler was technically a leftist. He was a socialist. What I get surprised about people in Australia, they think we can have a socialist country. I'm like, socialism has been tried everywhere. China went from socialist to communist. Cuba, Venezuela became socialist.
To be fair, like I've heard that argument before. I think it's like he was also a nationalist, which that would be considered the right. Like,
yeah. No, but this is very technical though, Avi, because nationalism is not expensive. The left, by the way, they always go to history and they change terms. So Hitler was actually not a nationalist. He was an empirical nationalist, meaning he believed every single nation should become Germany. So that is nationalism mixed with imperial cult. So he was really Alexander the Great. In fact, he was inspired by the Third Reich. So nationalism is the belief that we need to make Australia Australian, we need to make Israel Jewish, and we need to make the Arab world Arab, which is the opposite of multiculturalism. But you know the left, they always go to history and they change it. So they literally changed the definition of nationalism. So when Trump says, make America great again, nationalism, he's not saying we need to make the whole world America. He's just saying America is not China and China is not America. So I really, that's why I think you wrote on the thingy, Andrew is a Christian nationalist. Well, there's only two options of political leadership, nationalism or globalism. There is no third option.
Yeah, fair
And
point.
if you're not a nationalist, and I challenge people, then what are you? A globalist or anarchist? There's three options of leadership in politics. Nationalism, which is we are Australian, that's why we celebrate Australia Day. Or globalism, which is at the moment Australia under the left and even most of the right-wing, left-leaning guard, we're not a nation, we're globalists. What does that mean? We don't do what's best for our nation. We never do. Or thirdly, you have the good old anarchy, which is tribalism. But if you're not a nationalist, I'm challenging anybody from the audience, then my question is to you, what political system would you pick?
But do we even need a political system to celebrate something like Australia? That's the thing, right? That's where I get confused. It's become so politicized. The hatred of Australia is so politicized. Like, it's like, why? What for? What purpose does it serve? I know the purpose, but I'm probably going to explain it. But that's what confuses me the most.
So, according to my study, the first thing communists always do is reject nationalism and make people hate their country. This is a very old trick. In order for you to establish communism,
did the Chinese not love China?
No. They resetted China. So in 1949, they had to hate the old China.
Okay, yeah.
And after they established a new China, so guess what? When they change a flag, when they get the voice, when they get all their utopian dreams, the game is going to change straight away. So in 1949, Mao Zedong led the youth to hate China. That's why China at the moment is not the China of 1949.
No, they were forced to retreat to Taiwan, I think.
Sorry?
I think they were forced to retreat to Taiwan.
Obviously, but you will obviously, for geopolitical purposes, you will act like you love your country. Like it's a classic, like that's a job of a dictator, is to pick the point of history that fits the narrative. And then, like for example, if you look at, if the English didn't come here, my family escaped the Muslim Middle East because they wanted to kill my parents. If the English didn't come here, I would be dead. So there is a lot of positive things to the English colonization, and people don't say that. Like how awesome is that we live in a nation that's free, that's democratic. We have people from all races, cultures coming here, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Even Rukshan, man. So my question is to people.
I think that's where we should draw the line, though.
No, well, I would put it like this. So even colonization obviously has impacts all around the world, right? The British especially colonized many parts of the world. So even the negative impacts of that people from those parts of the world perhaps historically may have been impacted by this, but now they're making a future for themselves in the West, in countries like the UK, in Australia, and so on, Canada. So it all comes around, and I think the price that people want the British and the white man to pay for the sins of the past and their ancestors. I think in many ways it has been repaid by the way that a lot of people have gotten out of poverty.
Rukshan, stop. We need our reparations.
The way that
but guys, this is very
I'm being very honest. Like I don't hate the West for the history of what they did in the Southeast Asia. I don't hate them for that, and I understand the past. But today, when I'm living in Australia, I understand that I'm linked to that in some manner as well. But even then, I don't hate the West. I'm like, I got to make use of this opportunity, and I think a lot of immigrants perhaps look at the West like this, whereas you have these white liberals. I hate using that term, like in terms of identifying people like this, but
they're mostly white.
You have the class of people who really probably they are privileged in the sense that they don't understand what they have. They don't understand how wonderful Australia is for everyone. They don't understand what their ancestors and the history of the West, with good and the bad, has created this kind of safe haven for people from all parts of the world that can coexist and live together and actually, pursue happiness and have all these things that we've always talked about, right? And they don't understand what that means because I don't get it. Like, how can we see it, like you said, as three colored individuals from different countries?
Because our family didn't have freedom. Our family didn't have freedom. Like, Avi, you would know in Israel, it's a hot mess. They are surviving day by day against Muslim terrorist attacks in any second.
This is the perfect segue into the next. I was going to do COVID. Yeah. I reckon, Rukshan, we'll leave COVID for when we move over because I just suspect that we're going to cross too many lines. So I reckon we're going to the Middle East first and maybe get Andrew's perspective, and he, may know even have more than me on this issue. Do you know what's going on? Let's look at Syria first. What's your perspective on what's happening in Syria?
Well, again, everything goes back to history. Syria, which was a Christian nation that was colonized by the Muslims somewhere between the 600 and the 800. Before you know it, Syria or Assyria went from 90% Christian. Now it's less than 1% Christian.
That's Christians the story of the entire Middle East almost.
Exactly. And then they come and scream, genocide, genocide, Israel's committing genocide. I'm like, buddy, you need to start your history. If Israel's committing genocide, there will be no Muslims or Arabs in Israel. So that's ridiculous. The actual people that committed genocide is the Islamic colonization. Egypt used to be 90% Christian. Now Egypt is 10% Christian. Algeria used to be 90% Christian. Now Algeria is less than 1% Christian. Libya used to be 90% Christian. Now Libya is less than 1% Christian.
Andrew,
Turkey used to be.
What's the only
genocide?
What's the only country in the Middle East that the Christian population has grown since 1948?
Israel.
I love it because no one knows that.
I don't understand, bro. Like, if I go to Egypt now, I would be thrown in jail for blasphemy or killed on the street. I'm going to Israel next year to visit, and nothing is going to happen to me.
You'll be welcomed with open arms.
So what I don't understand from people, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, it's
but on this
so
specific,
crazy.
Do you have any insight? So obviously, what's happening in Syria at the moment, where this is my take, my understanding of it. You've got rebels that are backed essentially by Turkey. They're terrorists, they're Islamist, jihadis, groups that are funded by Turkey, Sunni terrorists, and they've seen an opportunity. They're seizing on that opportunity to take Assad while he's kind of down, while essentially his Shia support Hezbollah. Israel knocked Hezbollah essentially off the. Well, they were Assad's fighting force. They were essentially what these guys are to Turkey. They did a lot of Assad's dirty work through the years of the Syrian civil war, and now that Israel's knocked them out of the way, and that they're trying to regroup in Lebanon. They certainly don't have the manpower or the capabilities to get back into Syria and fight for Assad properly. These Syrian rebels literally walked into Aleppo. No, there was no real pushback. They say in Hama, the Syrian forces, and when they say Syrian forces nowadays, it's backed by Russian bombers and Iranian. It's Russian and Iranian. Hezbollah was the main foot soldiers on the ground, but it seems like they're getting a lot of
Yeah, the Middle East is a very complicated game, and one of the biggest issues is that the West, the left and the West, do not understand the mechanics of the Middle East. So in this fight, personally, I would hope that Bashar al-Assad, is that his name, would win. Simply because, and I'm not saying he's a good man, and I'm not saying he's a...
I'm actually listening to you, and I think I agree with you. There's only a third party. The two groups are bad.
Yeah.
I think the jihadis are probably worse. Bashar al-Assad's not a good
look
man.
at Iraq. Look at Iraq. Saddam Hussein. So the problem you guys have in the Middle East, and this is why people say, number one, you can never have democracy in the Middle East. You can't. If you have democracy in the Middle East, people will vote for radical Islamist jihadist party. So Egypt had an election in 2011. They voted for Muslim Brotherhood. Gaza had an election in 2006, and guess who they voted for? For Hamas. So the problem is you are pushing your Western values on a nation that is so religious to the core. For the sake of my Christian brothers and sisters and for the Jews, I want a moderate Muslim like Bashar Assad to be in charge. Exactly.
Having said that, though,
by the way, Saddam Hussein.
Sorry?
We have a case study everywhere in the Middle East.
Yeah. But although there is a third group that I would, they would be. I don't think we should intervene, but I think that I would root for them to win, and that's the there's Kurdish groups that I don't think they got involved now, or they might be fighting a little bit. I've seen some of the rebels have taken them hostage. Some of the girls, they do what they do, just like Hamas. But those guys, and they have a real claim on the land because they are ancient people to that land, a bit like the Assyrians. I would support them winning because I don't think that I think that they're probably good people that care about what's their ancient land and their history and their culture, which is rich. But will they win? Who knows now? It looks like crazy days
Probably
ahead.
not, man. Probably not because to defeat Bashar al-Assad, and then you got Iran, you got Lebanon. Good luck, dude. I'm not very, unless the West intervenes to help that group, they're probably most likely not going to win.
What I've noticed with this issue is, Avi and Andrew, like in terms of how the rest of the world is reacting to this issue, especially on social media, the sentiment around this is quite confusing because I think people who have really focused on the conflict in Israel with Gaza and Palestine, all this kind of stuff, a lot of them who may have not really understood the history of the place, like you guys have discussed today, their opinions are all over the place. They can't quite seem to figure out who to support, who not to support. You're seeing infighting occurring. You're seeing people that were supporting one side now switching to the other side.
Yeah.
It's a bit all over the place. So I think that's a great kind of metaphor for the Middle East in a way.
I think,
like you said, when the West tries to understand it.
Australia is a hot mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is very important because the issue is, the problem that people need to understand is that the anti-Jews crowd, you got the Jews right, but you're not getting the Israel and Palestine thing right. It's very important because I know the anti-Jews crowd, you guys know what I'm talking about, the jab. Sorry, I'm trying to use the anti-jab crew. You got the jab one right, but the Israel and Palestine, it's quite a complex issue. I know the conspiracy theory crowd, which I used to be one of them. It's split at the moment: Zionism, Zionist, Jew, all that kind of stuff. But you really have to go back to the Bible, go back to the history of the land, and go back to the reality that radical Islam is not better than the Zionism or the one world order, or whatever you want to go with that, because they think there is one big bad guy, the World Economic Forum. Little did they know, there's another thing called the Islamic Ummah. What is the Islamic Ummah? Islam believes that one day the whole world will become a one global order and the Khalifa, and it's called the Ummah. That is the reason it's very understandable and logical for all Muslims in Australia to hate Israel and support Hamas and scream, some of them, on October 7th or 8th in front of the Sydney Opera House, Gaza Jews. This is a religious war.
Jews?
Whether you like it or...
We're not sure what they said. They may have said Gaza Jews or where's the Jews, because they wanted to give them hugs.
Actually, why would a few hundred radical Muslims want to look for Jews? To hug them, or to kiss them, or to like give them a...
But do you remember how that was the controversy? That's what was her name? The one that used to work for ABC and during that period, Latouf.
Something Latouf.
Yeah. Is she? No, she's Lebanese Christian, I think. Christian.
Yeah, Lebanon is a very complicated issue. Like Lebanon
absolutely
added another complexity to the issue.
I actually think this leads on to onto a video that just popped up on my feed right before we came on, and I thought it's a perfect one because you speak Arabic, don't you? Obviously, 16. Yeah. Have a listen to this. This guy does a great job.
Gazans feel right now.
We can free Palestine by what did 7th of October. I love مقاومة. I celebrate in 7th October. I respect النوار.
You like Yehudi?
Of course no.
كله يهودي.
Yeah.
أنا مش عربي. أنا يهودي إسرائيلي.
Since the beginning of the war, I've been receiving countless DMs on my Instagram from Gazans asking for help. And my first reaction has been, call me. You see, I want to know what people there are thinking, how they feel about the war. The thing is, none of these Gazans have ever called me. Until...
This is
Can we talk about your situation? What is your situation?
And in April, I decided to go to Egypt with my family. In the crusade, they not allowed to take my family and husband with me.
Where did you learn to speak such good English?
Yeah, I studied from Quds Open University.
What was the life in Gaza before the war?
All people in Gaza are happy, and we live in beautiful home. We wear beautiful clothes. We eat beautiful foods. Everything was amazing. We want to recover our previous life.
October 7 is good or bad? Sabba October.
For me, I said it's good, and they are very courage. Give their life for Gaza and for us and for Jerusalem.
How can we free Palestine?
We can free Palestine by what did on 7th of October.
Are you happy with October 7? It's good for you?
Yes, I become proud of 7th October. I celebrate in 7th October, and we are proud of them. Yes, this is the truth.
يعني إن شاء الله كله رزة شهيد.
إن شاء الله.
Wow.
Hamas, for me, I love مقاومة. I respect النوار. He fought in the last breath to kill Israel and occupation. Give Gaza a lot.
Of course. And Hania also.
And
Hania very good.
Ismail Hania, I'm very sad when they killed them.
Haram that they haram. How do you feel about Yehudi? Do you like Yehudi or?
Of course no. Why? They killed our children. They stole our dreams. They demolished all our dreams and our house.
Kulu Yehudi, even Iraqi Yehudi, European Yehudi, Kulu Yehudi.
Yeah. In our Quran, Allah told us don't respect the contact between Yehudi.
Yehudi is bad.
What?
Not good.
Yeah.
You love Hamas. Like Hamas is good.
Yeah. I love all Palestinian people. Hamas, Fatah, Hukam. I love them.
In the back of my head, I'm thinking, how does she not know I'm Israeli? These questions were so on the nose. I honestly didn't think this was going to go on for so long. So I made a choice to tell her who I was.
أنا مش عربي. أنا يهودي إسرائيلي.
أنت يهودي؟ جد؟
إسرائيلي.
I am shocked. I am shocked.
Yeah, I know you're shocked. You want to have peace with me or you want to kill me?
No, no, you.
But you say you love Hamas.
Please. No, I love all people in Gaza, I said.
You love Hamas. Hamas is good.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
How can you be okay with Hamas?
Really, I said that because I think you love Hamas.
I don't believe you.
Look. You kill our children.
You also kill our children.
But when 7 October happened, I didn't like it. I really, honestly, I become proud of 7 October. I celebrate in 7 October. Look, I am a woman. I love peace. I love all people. I respect all religion.
Yehudi is bad, not good.
Yeah, all the people in Gaza now don't want Hamas control Gaza. We proud of them as Muqawama, as they make sometime.
You're proud of Sinwar. You're proud of Ismail Haniya.
Ismail Haniya is good.
They destroy your country. They destroy your people. They destroy your life. Sinwar is good. Sinwar destroy your life. Sinwar is bad. But we cannot have salam if you like Sinwar. Sinwar want to kill me, want to kill my grandma, want to kill my Israel is not going anywhere. Israel will stay here, inshallah, forever.
Wait.
The issue that I'm pointing to in this video is bigger than me and this lady from Gaza. It's a failure at the hands of the UN and Palestinian leadership to push their people away from radical Islamic terrorism. Arab supremacy is a real issue in the Middle East. We see it everywhere we go, from Syrian Arabs massacring Kurds, to Iraqi Arab Muslims massacring Mandeans, to Egyptian Arab Muslims massacring Copts, to Palestinians massacring Jews. I want to clarify, even though this lady wants to see me dead, I don't hate her. I just think she's a idiot. She grew up with a cancerous ideology, and we Jews have good reason to believe that most Palestinians hold these exact same viewpoints. That needs to change. Longer version of this conversation on my Patreon. You need to know how Gazans feel.
What's your reaction to that, mate? I had to watch it all just because I think it's so
There is
powerful.
two things. This is the reality I grew up on. And I grew up in Egypt, which is a moderate Muslim country. We grew up being taught that hating Israel and hating Jews is a service to Allah. And one day, the whole Muslim world will unite to eliminate and kill every single Jew. In fact, in the Islamic hadith, it said that you see the vision of Hamas, which is to eliminate and eradicate all Jews from the land of Israel and across the world. This is a problem. This is actually in the Quranic hadith. They believe that one day, Jesus, their prophet, which is my God, is going to come one day to New Jerusalem and is going to lead the Muslims to a war with the Jews. And every single Jew in the land of Israel will be killed. That is Islamic divine text. Not just that. It said that Jesus will lead, Isa will lead the Muslims to victory against the Jews. That as the Jews are getting killed, they're going to be running around to hide behind a tree and behind a rock. And as they go behind the rock is going to try to talk. And the rock is going to say, hey, Muslim, servant of Allah, come and kill the Jew behind me.
There's a Jew hiding behind me. I remember these. I used to ask him.
Well, this is the issue. This is the divine texts you're dealing with. So how do you expect those people to not act like that? This is their God, their ideology, their philosophy. That's why I always said to people, this war is religious.
I know. I used to feel very strongly about this issue in the way that you're framing it now. But then Trump brought us the Abraham Accords. And after the Abraham Accords, before the Abraham Accords, as a Jew, as a proud Jew, I couldn't go to many places. And even when I did, if I was found out, even in certain neighborhoods and places, even in the West, found out, then you're actually at risk. And you would know that. But then the Abraham Accords came. Trump created peace with, and genuine peace with the UAE. That's the best example, because I can go to Dubai now. You can have a big Star of David on your shirt. And not only do they accept you, Israel's been at peace with Jordan for years. You cannot walk around with a Star of David in Jordan. You'll get lynched. Egypt's the same. Outside of those little resorts in the Sinai desert, Israelis can't really travel. You saw a Jew. He was shot dead on the streets in Egypt just recently, a Jewish businessman. So That's not real peace to me. Real peace is when I believe that the person across from me has mutual respect and mutual even love, but doesn't have to love, just mutual respect. Like I meet somebody in Australia, you don't judge them until you judge them on their character, not and what they do, rather. My question to you.
It's a very complicated issue, though, because it depends who's in charge. So Saudi Arabia and UAE are taking at the moment a progressive Islam approach. The people are not happy with it. And
When you say the people are not,
the people at the bottom are not happy with it.
the people in the the UAE, you're saying to me the people in the, because even in the UAE, and this is what
UAE is a very unique example. It's not, it's because UAE, they have taken a Western approach, but two things you have to realize. It's not going to be like that forever. It goes back to who is the king. So you will sometimes, so in Saudi Arabia, the last king was very Islamist. The current king is very progressive. So you have to understand, United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, it goes back to the king and his political purposes.
And that's the danger of it.
And it's always going to be swinging, man. You're going to get according to a Muslim, a godless king. So for example, if you watch the Muslims in UK, they hate the king of Saudi Arabia. Like, you know, Muhammad Hijab, have you came across that guy?
Yeah.
Of course. The biggest Islamic in UK.
The irony about Muhammad Hijab is he back in 2017, he had so many people, he was part of the campaign that had so many people thrown off the internet for so-called Islamophobia. And
100%.
Since October 7, that guy has been, spouting the most blatant Jew hatred, inspiring millions to hate Jews. And guess what? YouTube still pays him tens of thousands of dollars every single month to spew that hate.
Yeah, so you're looking at a very complex era. So for example, look at Egypt. Egypt, we have a peace treaty with Israel in 1973.
That was that Mubarak that signed that? No, who signed that?
No, it was Anwar Sadat, who was killed. Anwar Sadat. So we have that treaty. This is the funny thing, man. In expression, we speak peace. Where I was living, institutionally, it is not.
Yeah.
And so you're living in that paradox. So in any second, bro, just study Islamic history. Like, Islam made a peace with the Jews that was called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, where they will make peace until they gain power. Once they gain the power, you're gone. And that's the principle. It's called taqiyya, where you're allowed to hide your intentions.
Sure. I know about that, but I think there's two things we're talking about here. One is that when they're consciously doing that, and I know that was, that's the history, and then the other one, where you're saying the UAE and Saudi Arabia, it comes down to leadership. I really hope you're wrong about that, because one thing I felt in
I'm not, because
I'm not saying
to people there.
I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm saying I hope the relationship now, that's because in the UAE you go there and Israelis are building really strong relationships with Emiratis and like real ones. You're seeing it, and I feel it, and so I'm hoping because even Christianity, like, religions had really complicated relationships with each other, and Islam more than anyone. But Christianity had its kind of natural progression. The problem that I've seen with much of the Islamic world is that they're still stuck in the 7th century, and their hatred is still there. But can it progress? Can it progress?
Honestly, I hope so. I don't think, like, dude, I was talking to my friends, and they, like, if I go to Egypt, they would arrest me. My best friend.
Sure,
yeah. And we were very close. But that's the thing. It's their religion, man. Good luck. They're nice people. They're loving people. Like, I thought, I met with my mate in New York, because if I met him in Egypt, he would arrest me. So I thought in the last 17 years since I've been away from Egypt, that it became more secular. It hasn't. It actually became more Muslim. So, like, for example, a few days up, and that's, by the way, I'm telling you what's happening on the ground. So I'm telling you, the issue you're facing is that the progressive leaders at the top want peace. But the political, not the political, the people at the bottom don't want the peace. So, like, for example, I was watching my friends. They had a game after October 7th, and there was like 30,000 Egyptians screaming, with our blood, we will die for Palestine. And they're Egyptians. I was like, why would Egyptians die for Palestine? Like, that's kind of weird. And then I figured out in the moment that Islam, once it takes over a nation, it becomes, the problem is, unlike the global liberal order, it's top down. Islam is top down and bottom up. So you are dealing with people at the top who are pro it, but at the same time, the problem you have is once people believe in it, it's very hard to unbelieve it. So, for example, you get communism in Russia. Once the communist USSR dissolved in 1991, everybody's like, I'm out of here, I'm not a communist. Do that though in a Muslim nation, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Assyria. That's why I said to you before, give these people a vote, they're gonna vote a more radical Muslim. Just look, man. So Hamas, West Bank, they voted Fatah. Egypt, when they had one election that wasn't stolen, they voted for Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So you're dealing, the problem there is in the soul. It's not political. So the politicians are playing a double game. At the top, they're making peace. They don't have the weapons. They have a weak currency. And United Arab Emirates, they have taken a very smart approach. Let's make cash and stop religious war. Very smart. Very smart. But the problem is, if you go to the depth of the country, that is not what the people want. Saudi Arabia is way more complicated. Like the actual king at the moment, he put his brothers on house arrest. You know that, right?
No.
So the problem you're having there, you got some of the kings and the princes who are pro-Islamic kingdom, and the others who want to progress with the West. So there is political tension. So in Saudi Arabia, all mosques are funded by the government.
So that they can control it.
Exactly. So same as Saudi Arabia, actually. Same as UAE. So if you have a progressive king, it's like back in the day. Look at United Kingdom. If you had a Christian king, the church is strong. If you had a whatever king, he will get rid of the Pope.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening in the Middle East. Egypt doesn't have weapons at this point of time to take over Israel. They don't. But institutionally, I'm talking to my friends, they want to destroy Israel. Institutionally. Now, it's like when you see it, Scott Morrison will go to America and he will say, we are pro-freedom. Do you guys remember during the Jews stuff, during the jab stuff? Oh, Australia is a free nation. But when you look at the States, they're doing the opposite. So they do this double communication thing where politically outward, you will see the United Arab Emirates and the World Economic Forum. But when it comes down to it, man, if you eat during Ramadan, you'll go to jail.
In UAE?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Just Google.
I've been there. I've been there a couple of times. I'm telling you, there's nowhere in the Arab world I felt more comfortable than the UAE.
Yeah, but you were in the tourist area.
Yeah.
So, bro, I thought in the last 20 years, my friends got liberalized, and dude, they became more Muslim.
Wow.
So it's interesting, definitely interesting perspective.
Well, look at Australia, Avi. The Labour and the left thought when we welcome Islamic refugees, they're gonna come here and become tolerant, inclusive, and diverse. What happened after October 7th?
Yeah, sure. We've seen an uptick in radicalism. we've also seen, even funnier though, Labor brought a lot of these Islamic refugees in, and now, because the Muslim community is very is very conservative on most issues. Outside of immigration and Israel, everything else they're super conservative, and they're really anti the woke
Yes and
plan.
no. Yes and no. That's not 100% true. Most Muslims in Australia vote Labor. That is not true.
No. They traditionally have, but there has been on a number of issues this swing away from Labor, and I think the way we're going to see it playing out over the next few years is actually these new Muslim parties, which are gonna capture all the votes, and you're going to see them starting to be represented in Parliament, or at least they're going to have.
And the Labor is going to become more Sharia law. That's what's going to happen. Look,
I think Labor's going to have I think Labor's going to have a problem because they're going to end up being pulled between the green agenda and the Islamist agenda, and it's going to be a struggle. They're going to do their numbers, and they're going to land wherever they think the votes are going to take them, which is exactly what this is.
The Greens are they, them, she, them, frogmen, frogwomen. They can't have babies. The Islamic average is like 3.6 baby per family. So the future for the Labour is Islam. Just look at UK. Keir Starmer, he ran on Sharia law, dude. Like, he's trying at the moment to pass a law that will potentially make it illegal to criticize or talk about Muhammad. That is a blasphemy law.
Yeah.
If you look at France and UK, I think the future is going to be Islam, not Greens, because they simply don't have the babies.
I want to jump in, Avi. I've seen a few comments, people saying that Rukshan's looking a bit sleepy. And
it looks like he's sleeping. He must be. I know
well enough when you have two Middle Easterners talking about some issue, not to get in the middle of it, and stay well away from it. So I'm doing my part, listening, just listening, because I know this, how to deal with this issue. But like what you've brought up there, Avi, I think it's important just to add a bit of balance to this discussion, because we haven't really brought this up, right? The international world, particularly the political world, and how they treat Israel is very different to some of the things that you guys are discussing, particularly when it comes to, for instance, Netanyahu being charged with war crimes by international court. You have Amnesty International today bringing up genocide claims against Israel. You have, of course, our own government here in Australia siding with the Palestinian issue that they've never done before in the past. So I think this
election is coming. It's election.
Yeah. Is
They've
it
already
really
showed you the colors, Avi?
But worldwide, though, is it really about election, or is this massive?
It's about election.
100%. I personally think that this is
in Australia.
Yeah, I feel like
the
Labor government. I think the Labor government is thinking quickly, what can we do before we call this election? What can we do to grab some votes? We don't. Right now, people are hating on us. They think that we are. They think we're. They want something that's kind of clear for the base, for both the Greens base, so the far left, and the Islamist base, or the Muslim community, because the majority of Muslims, even if they're not Islamists, they can't help themselves, but they watch, Al Jazeera, they watch Arab news. So they just get one side of the story, which is, it's hard to beat that. And so I feel like Labor is absolutely trying to grab votes at the end by doing this.
Well, UK did that last election. Keir Starmer did that very, very, very well. The mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, he did the same thing. This is the future, because when you do the numbers, like Charlie Kirk said, conservatives are going to win in America because the left don't even have babies.
Yeah.
So the future is Islam versus Islamist versus Christendom and Judeo-Christian West. That is what's going to happen. The left-wing, they, them, furies, they're only a hype. It's not going to last for very long. And that's the reason, by the way.
We discussed earlier, Andrew, like, obviously, in Australia, our politicians don't really bring religion into an election. But in
They
a
will
way,
have
we're
to.
seeing now when it comes to Islam, for instance, or the Muslim
They will.
population, that
Oh,
they
dude.
are. So it's like kind of this contradictory type way of
Yeah.
dealing with
And
religion in this country.
Ruslan, what's happening, dude, is that because Australia has an anti-religion sentiment, what they fail to realize, if you don't promote Christianity, you will end up with Islam. This is very simple. People do not know. People are religious by nature. So there's two big religions that have been forming in the last 30 years, wokeness and Islam. So in the next few years, the whole political thing in Australia is going to become very religious. Well, they said we don't need to bring Christianity. Well, guess what? You're bringing Islam, Judaism, you know what I mean? So what the only way forward, I would say as a pastor, is for Australians to turn back to God. There is no way around it. The future of Centrelink politics, $275 to save electricity. We're going to give you a few voucher, and then Andrews, I'm going to give you gay time if you get vaccinated. The future is not in penny politics of you're going to have Freedom Day if you get vaccinated. The future is in good moral values, and they come from religion. And the more Australians reject Christianity, the more Muslim the nation will become. That's just the reality. It's check London, check France, check Germany, man. By the way, this is what happened in Egypt. The less Christian Egypt became, the more Muslim it became.
You see,
I mean, definitely the other religious groups in Australia, whether it's Hindus or Buddhists and stuff like this, or
they're
Sikhs,
not going to make it. They're not going to make it.
They don't really try to, I guess, they don't really talk about imposing their views and their religious views. They kind of just practice it within themselves.
Because
mostly.
Christianity and Islam are the only two expensive religions in the world. So Christianity, go into all the world and make disciples. Our goal is to preach the gospel for people to become Christians. Islam, their goal is for the nation to become Muslim so people can become Muslim. So that is why eventually we butt heads very strong. Judaism is a protective religion, obviously. It's about protecting your family.
It's because we're puppet master. We're controlling everything.
I need to learn from you, man. We'll meet after you learn all the Zionist tricks. I'm joking. But going back,
I can't share them with you.
Christianity and Islam will end up butting head to head because we are both expensive religions.
Yes, I understand.
You got what I mean? So, and that's why what keeps the West free is Christendom. Whether they like it or not.
Look, in 2024, I think more people should become Christians because the real Christians I have always found, and I'm talking about real Christians. I'm not talking about people that just put Christ is King in their bios. It's like it's that's almost sometimes, you know, to me, often people that put it in their bios with the cross, it's almost like having your pronouns. I'm talking about real Christians that go to church, believe, read the Bible. They are gentle, nice, true, real people, and they don't fall for nonsense they see on TikTok.
And that's the thing. That's why I said to you guys. So the difference between Christianity and Islam is that Christianity, unlike what most leftists believe, was spread by the preaching of the Bible. Islam was spread by the power of the sword. So this is the reality of Islam. Islam never wins over a country by preaching. It wins over a country by infiltrating political class or by having lots of babies. Or
they have what's it called? Dawah. They have Dawah.
Yeah, it doesn't really work. So you're looking at 1 to 5% conversion out of 100, and you're looking at 80%.
They did pretty well they did pretty well this year on TikTok.
Yeah. But then you'll find all the dumb liberal white girls.
Did you see that? There was like this trend where
you're a feminist, and how can you be a feminist and a Muslim? It doesn't make sense.
But then you have that. You have the dumb but you also have like the Andrew Tate cult kind of people that they join. We can continue this
Andrew Tate
conversation
is not a Muslim.
in a
He's a
second.
fake Muslim.
I want to, before we move to the, you can go a bit harder on that in a minute when we go to the free speech platforms only, because obviously the platforms we're on now, we have to be a little bit careful. Just your reaction to this. So this is in your city, obviously. Anti-Israel activists protest against synagogue while claiming it's not about Jews.
Welcome to the club. The anti-Jewish reality, as a lot of writers said about Nazi Germany, first they come for the communists, then they come for the Jew, then they come to the Christians, and then they're coming for you. The reason I'm a big supporter of Israel politically, and I speak about the anti-Jewish hate, because I know after they come, Islam, after they go for the Jews, we are next, the Christians. Firstly, they go after the Saturday, then they're going after the Sunday. And what a weird coincidence that our very leftist, immature, non-discerning prime minister didn't know that a church down the road was going to be attacked by a little Islamist boy, Bishop Mari. Yeah. Did he really think you can let Islamists chant Gaza Jews and eventually terrorism is not going to happen?
Yeah, I'm with
He's
you.
Crazy.
It's so good.
I knew, we doubled the security because we knew the moment you normalize persecuting Jews, the next stop is Christians. Firstly, they're going for the temples, then for the churches. Firstly, they're going for the Jews, then for the Christians. And if you don't care about the Jews and the Christians, well, guess who's next, mate? It's you. If you're gay, you're next on the block.
On that note, guys, we're gonna talk about some of the COVID stuff. I know you were very involved in the COVID stuff at the time. We might expand a little bit more on this, where you're freer to say whatever you actually tell us how you really feel, as they say. So we're gonna shut down the YouTube and the Facebook links. So you guys, you have about a minute now where you can move over either to X, so Rukshan's X, my X. Or you can go to Rumble, Rebel News on Rumble. It's live there. Or you can go to the opposition.show. It's written on the screen there. The opposition.show, not .com. The opposition.show. You can click on the current episode, and it's live there. And in fact, there it's going to be live all the way through, where you're also going to be welcome to join us live on screen if you want to get involved in the conversation. That's going to be at the end. We'll have we'll have a few minutes now where we're going to talk about the COVID stuff. We'll just finish. We'll wrap this conversation about the threats in Australia that you may not be able to talk so freely on the main platform. I know the pastor here feels quite passionate about some of these issues, as do I, but you have to be a little bit careful on the mainstream platforms. So no, we can't talk about COVID on YouTube yet. Look, it really depends who you are. It seems like certain channels are allowed to say more than others. Mohammed Hijab is certainly allowed. He has a bit more free range than us. So rather be safe than sorry. We are going to jump over. So right now, take a minute, go to either Rukshan's X, my X, or go to Rumble, Rebel News. Am I missing something? Or the opposition?
No, that's right. Yeah, or just go to the opposition.show website, guys. So
and on that,
over those platforms.
On the opposition.show, you're going to need to get yourself a Rebel Plus membership to be able to get in there. That's also going to allow you to log into the show. Plus, it'll give you access to all the other shows and my Tuesday night show with Morgan, which is way better than Rukshan's new show. And it lets you interact with it. It also gives you access to all the documentaries and the other Rebel shows. It's also just a way to help us keep the lights on here. So the opposition.show, you can either do that now and would love to chat to you at the end. Otherwise, I think I'm going to start just pulling off these. We've got about 5,200 people live now, so we'll see what the numbers look like after in a minute. You all better move, otherwise we're going to find your addresses. We're going to come and knock on your door. We do work for the Mossad, so that wasn't just a conspiracy. The only reason why we have Andrew in here today is I am vetting him for the Mossad.
Wow.
Andrew, you could actually tell us a little bit about, your church is, I guess, considered what do you call it? Controversial in Western. Or it was.
Yeah.
Where exactly
For
were